Okay, so our next item on the agenda is action on comments heard at the 5:30 public hearing in regard to the Small Cities Grant. And the first of which is to adopt a resolution to authorize the first selectman to make application to the state of Connecticut for $300,000 in order to undertake and carry out a small cities community development program and to execute an assistance agreement.
Was there a public hearing?
There was a public hearing
5:30.
at 5:30 here,
Yep.
conducted by Pat Crisco.
Pat Crisco conducted it.
Okay.
It wasn't us.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry, missed that.
So as a result of that, the first item is to
Thank
adopt a
you.
resolution so we can make application to do this. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes unanimously. Now, there's a number of resolutions that we have to adopt to keep us in compliance with various state and federal standards. The first of which is the Town of Woodbridge ADA notice. So I entertain a motion to adopt that.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes unanimously. Next is a resolution for the Town of Woodbridge to adopt the Town of Woodbridge ADA municipal grievance procedure. And entertain a motion to that effect.
So moved.
Is there a second? Okay. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes unanimously. The next is to adopt a resolution concerning the affirmative action policy statement. I entertain a motion to adopt that resolution.
So moved.
Is there a second? I'll second it. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Passes unanimously. Next is to adopt a resolution for compliance with Title VI of the Civil Rights Act of 1964. Entertain a motion, a resolution to that effect.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes unanimously. Next is to adopt a resolution concerning the Fair Housing Policy Statement. Entertain a motion, a resolution to that effect.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? Passes unanimously. And finally, to adopt a resolution concerning the Fair Housing Resolution. And I entertain a motion to adopt that resolution.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Passes unanimously. That gets us on to number 11, Director of Finance and Operations
All
Report.
right.
And first of all, your monthly report.
Okay. The monthly report consists of revenues and expenditures through March this year. And the budgetary surplus is reported at $489,000. And that leaves us at $4.3 million, or 10.2% of our budget for our fund balance. A couple of highlights for you that are new to us this month. The first is an intergovernmental revenue, which I'll get into a little more later. We received confirmation of our reimbursement from Storm Irene, which is $275,000 approximately, of which $80,000 is requested later on to transfer some expenditures in some departments. That was a big addition to that particular department. Charge for services are similar to last month. Slight surpluses in conveyance fees and building permits are projected, with a shortfall of possible in recreation of about $50,000. This gives us a slight surplus in charges for services of about $36,000. Interest income remains low and is approximately a $35,000 shortfall there. Finally, property taxes are going fairly well, and actually very well, and we probably will have a surplus there of about $100,000, largely due to a back tax collection that we received earlier in the year. So those were the revenue expenditures, the revenue highlights, and I don't see the second page here.
It's on the back.
No,
I'm sorry.
Never mind.
You found
Oh,
it?
okay. Oh God, mine wasn't the only one. Mine was the only one. A few highlights in expenditures. Liability insurance is a surplus of $15,000 due to lower rates than anticipated. Waste management has a surplus of about $15,000 due to some surplus and some tip fees. And finally, in our health insurance, we have a surplus of approximately $100,000, possibly a little more, due to some savings in plan design that we discussed earlier. That took place. So those are our highlights of the financial report. There you go.
Okay. Any questions or comments? If not, then we'll go on to tax refunds.
The tax refunds are presented there for you. Total refunds of $4,042, of which $334.80 is real estate refunds, and $562 from motor vehicle.
Entertain a motion to approve the tax refunds.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes unanimously. Next, our funding request. The first is a line item transfer number 1112-27, $2,000.
This is for, if you remember correctly, we had the maintenance garage that we completed at the Country Club facility. There was some additional work to be done on some of the fascia and soffits. It's in a memo attached there for $2,000 that we wanted to accomplish. That's from a capital line that has some extra funds remaining in it.
So I entertain a motion to approve line item transfer number 1112-27, the amount of $2,000.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion?
I have a question. In the narrative, it makes reference to funds to be transferred from a roof project to the library.
Yeah, these were originally, it was funded a few years back for roof heaters at the library where there was a leak problem. The leak has not been a problem, and there was some work done to the roof to solve some other leak problems, and so it's contemplated that those roof heaters are not necessary.
We have them here though, right? Is that what
Yeah, there's some here, yeah, and it solved the problem here, but the leak hasn't manifested itself at the library, and part of the issue there is we didn't have very much of a winter, but
So we may see it again.
it's possible. Yeah, so but we're comfortable that we can take at least $2,000 from that line to see for this project.
Oh, all right. You know what?
It's got to balance is like $15,000 in it.
I was expecting the source of funding to be the library, was building maintenance, and now it makes sense. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, so there's been a motion made and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes unanimously. Next is line item transfer number 1112-28.
This is a transfer in the police.
$2,000.
$2,000, right? A transfer in the police department to cover some repair and maintenance, mainly to some of the units in the cars that they have. A lot of it's the radar units and that sort of thing. That was unanticipated.
So this is from police, communications, telephone,
Right.
that line item to repair and maintenance.
Correct.
Okay, I entertain a motion to approve line item transfer number 1112-28, amount of $2,000.
So moved.
Is there a second? Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes unanimously. Next is line item transfer number 1112-29, $80,070.
This is the reimbursements we discussed earlier from FEMA, and there are 4 currently that have been identified that are in need of some funding. First is in Public Works, and that was $40,000 that was reimbursed to the town for debris removal. And the second is in the police department, which is $30,000 in overtime that was that the town had incurred on that week, basically. The third is the fire department and the repair and maintenance of buildings. We've discussed this in the previous. This was the damage to a camera. And finally, in the for supplies used by the fire department, $7,500 in their technical line, which was for supplies that were used during the storm that had to be replenished. So these are all, and I have some documentation later on in the package from FEMA that you can see where all the funds are, but that's the transfer requested.
Okay, so I entertain a motion to approve line item transfer number 1112-29, the amount of $80,070.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes unanimously. Next is line item transfer number 1112-30, $14,000.
Okay, this is a transfer request in waste management. Even there's still going to be a surplus in waste management, even with this transfer. But there was a few things that had happened in waste management. The main being a hazardous contamination of a waste oil container that had to be cleaned, and so it was something we really couldn't wait on. But apparently somebody had put oil in there that was not cleaned.
Okay.
So when it was emptied, you could see that there was this contamination in there, and so it had to get cleaned right away. So that's a good portion of it.
All right, so I entertain a motion to approve line item transfer number 1112-30 in the amount of $14,000.
So moved.
Second.
Okay. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes unanimously. Next is line item transfer number 1112-31, $18,000.
Okay, this is a transfer in building maintenance, and there were some a few deficits that we had to cover here. One is again was something that we couldn't avoid, but it was a water leak in the daycare facility in one of the bathrooms. I don't know if anybody heard about that.
remember.
And
Yeah, I
it leaked
remember that,
through the
yeah.
floor
Yeah.
and leaked all over the place.
Yeah.
Well,
We had
that
to move a meeting. I
that's right.
remember.
That's right.
Yeah.
So that was one that had to be addressed, and then there was some unforeseen emergency response in some of the storms that we had to building maintenance that were repairs to the center building, not related to the hurricanes. This is in the other storm.
So, okay, so I entertain a motion to approve line item transfer number 1112-31 in the amount of $18,000.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes unanimously. Next is line item transfer number 1112-32 in the amount of $22,000.
On this particular instance, and I will go through this later on in the FEMA reimbursement, but we also get reimbursed for vehicle time when we get reimbursed, and that's to cover the use of the vehicles. So in the case of this particular one, we were able to fund it from the department to fund some of the damage to these vehicles that had to be fixed. And while not all of it was probably as a result of the two storms, that certainly had an impact on some of the repairs that had to take place. So that's this transfer here. But instead of transferring it from the revenue, we were able to transfer it from within the budget.
Okay, so I entertain a motion to approve line item transfer number 1112-32 in the amount of $22,000.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes unanimously.
That's it, right? That's it.
Next item under the Director of Finance and Operations report is Regional Telecommunications Service Credit Designation.
This is an annual designation that we receive, and each year we receive the credit, and we designate it to the South Central CMed, which is where we'd like to do that again this year.
Okay, so do we need a motion to that effect?
Yeah.
So I'd entertain a motion to transfer the credit of $2,696.70 to South Central CMed.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes unanimously. Next is award of bids. First is the hauling contract for the transfer station.
Yes. We issued bids for hauling for the transfer station, and it's quite a large bid package. And you'll see there was several bidders, and basically what it boiled down to, and do you have the summary sheet in your
Yes.
package?
Yeah.
Yeah, I have that.
Yeah, okay.
For the summary sheet.
This one here?
Yeah, that's
Yep.
Because if you look at your summary sheet, you'll see there were 2, 3, 4, 5 bidders. And basically the low bidder was have already received it.
Sure.
The low bidder was G-Pod Dumpster. We did some, and that was in the amount of $125,385.49. We did some research. Warren did a lot of work on sort of checking references, and they found that they have no municipal clients. I think they have one truck that they use that would be that one or two trucks that can accommodate our facility. So we were not comfortable with that, based on the fact that we need to get this stuff removed on a timely manner. And so the second low bidder was John's Refuge, who we've used in the past. We've used and with great success. That's $127,432. So the proposal is to recommend the award to John's Refuge and Recycling for the few $1,000s that we possibly would have saved with this other company. We don't think it's worth the risk of the kind of problems that we can run into if we have problems with delivery or problems with hauling or that sort of thing.
So the $2,100 differential between the low bidder and the next low bidder.
Right.
And we've had good results with
John's has been
Refuge.
great
Right,
results,
okay,
yeah.
yep.
We've used them
Okay.
last year, the year before, and they provide excellent service.
So
That's the request.
our Public Works Director is recommending that we award the contract to John's Refuse and
Correct.
Recycling
Yep.
LLC. So I'd entertain a motion to that effect.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes unanimously. Next is the Small Cities Consulting Agreement.
Yes, we received, part of the process for the Small Cities Grant, and just for those of you who may not be familiar, Small Cities Grant Program is a program where we receive $300,000, hopefully, from the state, and that's a HUD pass-through.
We don't have anything like that, do we?
It was-
Where it is,
It was
it's up right
She
in
put
front of
her-
all those
She put it earlier in the package.
resolutions that you just approved.
Okay,
The,
it went flying by.
and then we, based on a process.
That's it right there, you see it says.
That's
right.
it, yeah. That's it, that's it.
Yep.
Based on a process, a very defined, strict process, income-eligible applicants can provide certain improvements to their house. And it's essentially a interest-free loan that gets put on their, on the house as a lien until the house transfers title, and then we get paid back. So it's income eligible, and then you get an interest-free loan to do certain improvements that are designed to improve the housing stock, like a roof, a furnace,
New kitchen.
yeah, it has to be, something that's a critical function. Can't be marble, counters and that sort of thing. It's got to be, something essential, plumbing, or trying to think of some of the things we've done.
Can't get a Viking stove.
No, people try though.
I'm sure they do.
ADA improvements. We've put in several ramps, ADA bathrooms, and it goes over very well. We have, I think, 15 people that have acknowledged interest, 15, 20 people. And so we, as part of this process, we use a firm to help us administer the grant, both from a reporting requirements that are, and also from monitoring the projects. So
And preparing the
preparing the
application.
application, and right, because we don't have the staff to be
Interfacing
able
with
to
the
do
state,
that.
yeah, okay.
And they also go out to the homeowners, and they make sure that the bidders are doing what they're supposed to do, and that they,
Oversee the-
oversee the construction, all
And
that.
then when the house gets sold, the money goes back.
Comes back to us, and then we can loan it out to someone else.
Right.
I have a question. The two cases that we have where blight is involved, that we're pursuing in Superior Court, are they eligible for this? If the
If they're
owner
income
shows-
eligible, first of all.
Oh, it's an income
It's
test.
income based,
Okay.
yes. That's the biggest requirement. You can't, it's income based, you can't owe taxes.
I got you.
There's
So they
several,
wouldn't be eligible.
several things.
It's a good thought, though.
Well, yeah.
So
So we had two bidders as part of this process to help us. The past two grants, we've used L. Wagner and Associates, who was one of the bidders. The other firm that applied, that sent in an application, was Lisa Lowe and Associates. And their technical assistance, which is the part of of actually helping us with the grant, is $75,000, or 25% of the awarded grant. Which
that's the max they can charge.
and that's the max you can charge under the grant. two previous times we used Wagner. One time was about 75,000. The first, because we had some more technical issues to resolve. The first time we only used, I think, 55 maybe. So we had some funds left over that we were able to use for more projects. So
So Lisa Low charges a flat fee.
Correct.
The max,
Right.
Wagner charges on a per diem or
Correct.
per hour.
right.
So we anticipate that Wagner might be lower.
Yes,
That's
and
what
we've
you're
used them
saying.
twice before, and they
Got it. Okay,
worked out very
right.
well.
Okay.
So I entertain a motion then to award the Small Cities Consulting agreement to L. Wagner and Associates, Inc. for the reasons set forth.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes unanimously. Next item is the firehouse shed amendment to the A. Urbano contract.
There is an amendment that was approved by the building committee for amendments to the Urbano contract for the shed for the work that's being currently done. And there are, as you can see here, 1, 2, 3, 4, and they total $5,537. And the committee would like to, and we support their change order to the contract for that amount.
Didn't this come before us before? Wasn't there another?
There was we did the contract.
And there was proposals to amendment to that contract. We did approve some amendments and we rejected one.
Right, that's what I
Right.
remember.
This is something
That was
different.
It was
3 or
during the
4
bid.
months
That was
ago.
during the actual
Right.
initial bid process.
Oh, okay.
This is
When
different
there were
items.
some, but this is after the work was
Okay.
done.
Okay, thank you for the clarification.
Okay, so I'd entertain a motion to approve the amendments to the A. Urbano contract as outlined in the memo from Dwight Rowland, or actually from Beth Heller, no, actually from Dwight
Dwight
Rowland, dated April 2nd, 2012.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes unanimously. Next is a report on the FEMA reimbursement for Storm Irene.
The we received reimbursements for Storm Irene, and we received 75% of all eligible costs. Okay, so what I'd like to do is, the reimbursements total $275,000, and I sort of just wanted to go through some of the items just so you get a sort of a feel for exactly what was covered. And I attached the sheets here. You can see some of the backup. The first is debris removal, and this includes all work, labor, and materials that Public Works had done to remove debris, not only the contracted service, but also the overtime related to that. And the project cost is $105,000. We were reimbursed $78,000. Category B was emergency protective measures. This includes labor, materials, equipment, and contracted services related to emergency services. This includes the fire and the police department. Some examples of this would be police overtime. It would be use of police vehicles, use of fire vehicles, use of equipment, materials used by the fire department, used by the police department. And it has some of that narrative in here for you to read. And that was a project cost of $245,000. Town reimbursed $184,000. Category B, there's a special category for volunteer time. And we were reimbursed at 100% for volunteer time, and that was 687 hours at $15 an hour. So that's mostly, most of it is volunteer fire. There are some volunteers time through the shelter that were also covered.
2 of the volunteers are right here at this meeting.
That's right. So that was $10,311. And finally, the equipment damage, which was the only piece we had, was the camera at the fire station, which was $2,570. So there's your FEMA reimbursement. We have now started the application for Storm Alfred, which is another FEMA reimbursement that we hope to get. A lot of this was done by Cindy and Amy and Janice at the police department. Helped put a lot of the records together. So they spent a lot of time on this. So
Good for them.
we thank them for
Kudos.
this.
Did an excellent job.
Yeah.
Very nice.
Okay, I have two more.
Yeah, the next is to authorize the first selectman to sign an agreement with Malone and McBroom for second phase of sidewalk design, Amity Road, Bank Street, Lucy Street. And I think there's a handout tonight from Malone and McBroom, revised April 4th, 2012.
This is for the steep grant that we have. And this is, if you recall, in one of your previous meetings, you had agreed to these roads for sidewalks. So we issued an RFP for sidewalk design, and this was for the other grant phase, which is the, I'm going up Amity Road, it's the right-hand side of Amity Road. This is the west side, right?
We
This
talked
is the
about
si-
this
I'm
earlier,
the
I was
right
east and
side.
I was
Right, right. The
I like
side-
the right side, going
This is
up.
the, yeah. So this is the
It's
side,
the east side.
the east
The
side,
sign
yeah.
with Brookside or not, that's the only way
No,
I
it's
know.
the side with the hardware store.
Mhm.
Okay.
Landon, you know.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
So that's already being paid.
Yeah.
That's a grant through the Greater New Haven Transit District.
Yeah.
And so we did an RFP for that, and McLone and McBroom was the winner.
Mhm.
So we were able to use those results to also use it for this grant. And so we wanted to use Malone and McBroom also for this grant. And
And that was clear with the state of Connecticut.
cleared with the state of Connecticut, right? And you'll see their fee is on the page 6, $18,750, and that's what we're looking for this evening.
Okay, so I entertain a motion to authorize the first selectman to sign that agreement with Malone and McBroom.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion?
And this is, just to be clear, this is still covered under the steep grant.
Correct.
No-
The steep grant's for $200,000,
There's no cost
so
in this.
no
the
cost to the
town.
taxpayers,
Not a
right?
taxpayer.
Just-
So it'll be $18,000 in design fees, and then the rest will be for sidewalks and other improvements.
Great.
Okay, so a motion's been made and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes unanimously.
And
And
lastly,
next is a new email address for town
the most
staff.
important news of the evening. No, we are now changing our email addresses to woodbridgect.org. So no longer will we be ci.woodbridge.ct.us.
You're finally organized.
Woodbridge,
Much better.
What?
Full name?
So it would be mine is, for instance, ageneviese@woodbridgect.org. Now this will be a slow transition. We're still able to accept both. It's a slow process that takes place. So you can start changing letterheads, start changing responses. This does two things for us. Number one, it's a lot easier to tell people.
Yep.
Number two, it gives us control over the domain, because we currently don't have control over the domain ci.woodbridge.ct.us. It's somewhere in Florida or something. So every time there's a hiccup, our emails go down, and we got to track the person down and call. It's because it was a free domain that was set up through the state
Right.
a long time ago, and a lot of towns have been migrating off it, and so now it's our turn.
But how come you didn't go for Gov as opposed to Org?
We tried going for Gov when we did the
Was it taken?
website. No, and it was a big, long, involved process, and it was costly, and we just decided this was a more effective way to do it.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay, that's just informational
Right,
purposes.
right.
Okay, good.
This was a lot simpler.
We're gonna send you an email now.
Yeah.
So yeah, test it out, and it'll come
I
right
already
in.
noticed it on Jerry's.
Yeah.
Oh,
I
right.
changed it already.
Did you? Yeah, yeah.
Ah.
Yeah, so eventually, outbound will be reported as woodbridgect.org. I'm not sure if, at some point, when we send one, it'll say that. So it'll be sort of a slow process,
Right.
but
But we
we
can
think
still
it'll
use
be,
the old one.
you still use the old one, yeah, probably
Feel more
not
comfortable
for another
with that.
6 months or so.
Okay.
We have
But
to sort of cycle
we should,
them out.
you want us to use the new one.
Start
right?
using the new one, and we'll start transferring it over, and so we don't
Putting it
miss
in my
anything.
contact list right now.
All right, do we have anything under other?
No, that's it.
Okay, next item is called the annual town meeting for Monday, May 21. And in your packet, you have a suggested motion to, which would include to approve the proposed abandonment of the discontinued roadway known as Fairgrounds Road from Amity Road to North Pease Road and adjoining land to the property known as 10 Fairgrounds Road. 2, to act in the fiscal year 2013 budget as recommended by the Board of Finance. 3, to act on any other matter proper to come before the meeting.
And before you, I just want to make one comment. I'm just looking at this now. We were,
discussing the abandonment of two properties during the past several
There was
months.
one on
And
Country
one of
Club
the
or something, right?
properties was
Yeah.
Country Club Road, and it belonged to Murray Lender.
Mm-hmm.
And Mr. Lender requested that the town abandon the strip that's between him and some neighbors. There's been some issues between the neighbors. And we did an 8-24 referral, came back approving the proposed abandonment, subject to making sure the neighbor had access out and in to their property. We just received, after Mr. Lender died, I received a call from an owner of an adjoining piece of property to this strip of land, and she was in Florida. She was coming back, but she said she definitely objected to the abandonment. And our policy has been that we only abandon property if it's agreed to by all abutting landowners, because you don't want somebody to be forced to take some property that they don't want. So I had told Jerry to take it off the agenda based on her representation to me on the phone. I haven't told, I think the house is in a trust. I think
It
that
is.
the house is in a trust. I haven't told the lender family that this was gonna happen, but I will try and advise them within the next week. I don't know, they have a lot of other things to be concerned about now, but I will try and tell them.
So I'd entertain a motion to, for the call of the annual town meeting for Monday, May 21, 2012, as described.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any
I
discussion?
have a quick question.
Yeah.
Does the call require time? Does the call have to be time specific?
It's usually 7:30, I
Yeah,
believe.
Yeah, it's not a bad idea.
When I do, all right, I'll put that in here.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I just forgot to do that.
I'm just asking.
Because when we have the actual call that you will actually sign, that will have all that information, but I'll put that in here. Thank you for catching that.
That's 7:30 PM.
Yep, 7:30 PM.
Okay, all right. Okay, with that amendment, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes unanimously. Next is the Town Council's report, first of which is a pesticide policy update.
A very short report. I just wanted to point out that when Jerry transcribed the motion, we don't want to beat a dead horse here too long, we've been talking about this for months. But when Jerry Shaw transcribed the motion that was approved by the board at the last meeting, I think she pointed out to me that the motion only referred to, the motion is made, I think, by Ed or Beth, only referred to the non-use of pesticides on ball fields. When in fact, the policy that was drafted by Mr. Schneider and Mrs. Schneider refers to eliminate the use of pesticides on town-owned property and to rely on non-chemical pest control strategies. It did not limit it to ball fields. This is the document that everybody had, and we started to discuss it, but we really went off on the tangent of the ball fields, and everybody ignored the other publicly owned properties of the town. I talked to David Schneider today and last week, and he indicated that it was clearly the intent that it would constitute non-pesticide use on all town-owned properties. I just wanted to bring it to the board to see whether you want to amend the last month's motion to include all town-owned properties. The policy clearly says all town-owned
Right,
properties.
but I think that's part of the big, long discussion we had about, first of all, I think it started out as ball fields. And then somebody mentioned, well, what about this field?
Playing fields.
That's a playing
That's
field.
Right, not necessarily.
I was under the impression we agreed on playing fields and that
Okay.
we were going, I thought that we had said that we're going to deal with the policy second, because we talked about, for example, in that policy, it's suggesting to create a pest control committee, and we thought that was unnecessary right now. So I thought that we were really taking large portions of that and putting it aside and really coming up with something that might be very different than that.
No, this is the amended policy which takes out the committee and leaves the ultimate authority in the first selectman if he believes that an emergency requires the use of pesticides. But that was the original policy that was in here. That was a change by David. I reviewed it, I made some suggestions, and we brought the final policy to to the board last month, which I think was which was the proposed final policy, but it never got into the motion. I don't know whether you want to include all lands now, or you want to limit it to publicly owned properties, but I just thought and actually David suggested that I bring it up to the board to have it included.
I thought it was the intent that we were going to include all town property.
Keep in mind, I think that
I
Adam
thought-
said that he doesn't he doesn't take care of the non-ball field town-owned properties for the most part. I mean, there's an exception in the policy for the cemetery, for the Woodbridge Country.
And the
He was
country
talking
club.
about,
Right.
he was talking about the use of Roundup or other
Right.
poisons to kill
Where the
weeds
headstones are.
because of the high cost of labor to go out.
Right.
It's my understanding that he didn't have the labor to do that, to take away the Roundup, and he was looking for an
Right.
exception
It was the
for
intent.
certain parts of the town.
Right.
And then we got into a discussion of certain areas are close to where children will be.
Right.
We're talking about this, so
Right.
I didn't think that we fell on all town property.
I thought we did, except with the exception of the Country Club of Woodbridge and also the
Cemetery.
it's-
What about
right.
the
And the flowers
cemetery?
around,
And the
flowers
cemetery,
around
right.
the town. hall.
Cemetery's not included.
So I don't,
I thought I thought this was accurate because of the need to spray around guardrails. There is, Public Works sprays along town roads
right.
to control growth around guardrails and
Intersections.
Here's what it says.
And I don't think Public Works is gonna go out with a weed whacker.
Here's what it says, exemptions to the policy. The policy shall not apply as of this time to the following: the country club, weed control, land on abutting town-owned streets and roads, however the least toxic pesticide is effective shall be used. The town-owned cemetery, the flower beds in and around town centers. And the beginning of the policy says it shall be applied to all town property. So it's up to you guys. If you wanna leave it, you can leave it. If you wanna change it, you can change it.
I thought when we took the vote, we exempted the cemeteries, right?
Right.
And that's not in this
No,
vote here.
I
Right,
took
there's
this
nothing.
from the tape, exactly from the tape.
Right.
Okay.
The vote really, the motion really didn't include the things that were
It did
in
not,
the
it did,
policy.
we didn't talk about the policy.
Right.
Yeah, that's it.
That's right.
We talked about the specificity of specific properties
Right.
because it became very complex. When I left here, I thought later on, well, doesn't the town own the cornfield?
Yes,
But that
that's
is.
organic anyway. We know it.
That's organic.
Right, we
But
don't
The
use
species
pesticides.
that the
No, but
farmers
there's
have,
some
they
trees over
cannot
there that are
use-
treated.
There are those
There are.
chestnut trees or
Yeah.
whatever.
I think
You're
he
right.
mentioned that, I think he mentioned
I don't think that came up.
But they have an agreement that was hammered out when the chestnut trees went in, that they could use Roundup, but they could use nothing else without permission from the court.
I'm just saying the policy doesn't match up to the motion, and it's up to you people to decide whether you want to do what you want to do.
Well, I thought when we discussed it that we did exempt the cemetery from the policy. That's not in
And
this
that's not in the
motion.
motion, it's not in the
No, because
motion.
it wasn't in the motion as Susan made
The
it.
motion was not complete based on what was discussed.
Correct.
Yeah, I didn't make the motion.
I did.
You made,
I did.
someone, or
Right.
maybe it was your words.
Ed
Right.
made the motion, Beth, I believe, had a friendly amendment.
Yeah, I know, and you
Right.
said, do you want me to take a stab at this?
We got real friendly because there was a lot of.
There's a lot of back and forth.
So is it more appropriate then to amend this to comply with the policy?
Well, that's what David Schneider called me, and we talked, and he said that he thought that was what we really did, when in fact we didn't. And he indicated, he said he would be here tonight, but he didn't think he needed to be. I said, it's up to you to come, I would present your point of view, and that I think is his complete point. He sent me an email, I can read it, but basically he said that the policy had been discussed for several meetings, and the policy never got into the motion.
And the policy took out this committee that.
Took out the committee, the
That's-
policy doesn't have the
So it's
committee,
just
right.
basically for selectmen and,
Well, that's
But-
and.
the policy was still subject to refinement after this motion was
Right.
approved.
I agree.
The policy, you met with the Schneiders after the meeting.
No, I met with the Schneiders before the meeting.
Well, I mean, you've been meeting with them all along, but as I understand it, you were to meet with them again after this was approved.
No. This was the final, this took out the committee, the only thing we made the change, we took out the committee, we
Right.
exempted certain properties.
Right.
And Mr. and Mrs. Schneider were here and they presented, well, I don't know if they officially presented the policy, but this was the final policy, there was no changes. We were never supposed to meet after the Board of Selectmen meeting last month.
Does that policy exempt the cemeteries?
Yes,
Okay, the motion didn't.
right, it
Right,
did not.
but it intended to. And I
So
think
that
it-
should be
Right.
redone.
And I think it intended to exempt the things that were mentioned in the policy, the country
Okay.
club, the cemetery, there was one other thing.
Flower beds in and
Flower
around
beds,
town.
Why are we
Yeah,
exempting the flower bed?
Because
'Cause
Adam was here and I think talked
He
about
does,
that.
he would, he uses Roundup and other things in the flock to, you know,
I think the concern got to be where there would
Small
be
area.
children or where there would
It's
be
not-
people near them. And I think that's where it got confusing. as to
It did.
what-
uses-
And it was not my
Because the
impression
town green
at the end that we had
got
Yeah.
crazy. It was-
he
gone
uses,
with the entire town.
He
with all
currently
the town
uses,
property. That
uh,
wasn't my
he
impression.
currently uses, pesticides and such, not just in the flower beds, but, you know, around the library, you know, in the new firehouse, I mean, there's, you know, in this town center, to
He
make it
also-
look.
Why don't we do this? We're gonna meet on the 25th again. We're gonna have a joint meeting on the negotiations with the Board of Education. We may have a couple of other items on the agenda, so why don't we meet again then and to request you to prepare a motion that reflects what the intent of the Board of Selectmen is to exempt cemeteries as well as what's stated in this motion. And apparently this flower
Flower beds in, yes.
Yeah.
Right.
And then to take a look at the policy as it is. That's what we vote on, and then to see.
That's
see-
good.
So could we get a copy of the policy and a copy
Yes.
of the motion? And
Definitely.
A copy here?
I'll send copies.
And
So we
maybe
can
we
see that ahead of
think
time?
how we.
Definitely, yeah.
No, it got chaotic, I do
Yeah.
recall.
Okay.
I remember he was
We
talking
can
about
straighten
pine
it out.
needles.
Because I was
at one
thinking
point,
initially it
putting those
started
down by
with-
the gravestones instead of.
A couple of fields,
Using Roundup.
2 years.
Sure it did.
And then it evolved into something totally different. And I think that,
We all thought 2 years was too long.
So it's
right, and I
Monday.
also thought that all of the town was too much.
Mhm.
That's why when I voted, I didn't think we were including the entire town.
Okay,
So, yeah.
all right. So, the next item on the Town Council's report is to go into executive session pursuant to section 1-200, 6(9)C of the Connecticut General Statutes to discuss our contract with MDM Golf LLC. So entertain a motion to that effect.
So, second.
Any discussion? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Congratulations.
Okay,
No.
so